Welcome to the Creator's Covenant, a modern exploration of timeless truths of faith. Centered on the Quran as the sole source, we examine sacred texts, history, and science to reveal humanity's purpose, our bond with the Creator, and our destiny beyond life. Discover divine wisdom and Quranic insights.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going on, well, a pretty remarkable expedition. We're heading right into that fascinating intersection where you find ancient sacred text meeting, cutting-edge cosmological theory.
And our mission today is to really get to grips with a highly sophisticated intellectual framework, one that proposes a fundamental architecture for the entire universe, which is, and this is the key, mathematically precise and structurally verifiable.
That's a great way to put it. This deep dive is, I think, unique because we're stepping entirely beyond the traditional theological readings you might be used to.
Exactly. We are analyzing a fully integrated model, one that suggests the cosmos operates according to laws and dimensions that are, it argues, explicitly detailed within a scriptural context.
And that approach really elevates the text, doesn't it?
It does. It moves it from, say, a simple narrative to something more like a structural blueprint for all of existence.
And that's the absolute key distinction for today. This entire deep dive is centered on the really innovative research and systematic interpretation of Dr. Khaled Waleed. Specifically, we're referencing his profound work, which you can find on his YouTube channel, Almighty Covenant. That's Ule in Arabic.
And Dr. Waleed has pioneered what you could only call an ultra-modern philosophical scientific reading of the Quran. It's a framework that, it intentionally separates its analysis from traditional historical or allegorical interpretations.
Right, so it can focus purely on the mathematical and physical constants that he extracts directly from the text itself.
So our goal is to systematically unpack this model. We're going to be linking the Quranic concept of the 6 days of creation, fundamental cosmic geometry, and modern concepts like multidimensional space-time and the Big Bang Theory.
And what I find so fascinating is just the sheer intellectual rigor of it all.
Yes. The idea that the foundational structure of existence, the geometry of space, the layering of time, is actually encoded through mathematical constants. And the most prominent of these, the one that kicks everything off, is the number 6.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's unpack this entire structural blueprint, starting right there at the foundation, this unique cosmological significance of the number 6. So Dr. Waleed's core argument, as I understand it, is that the number 6 isn't just an arbitrary count of days in, the creation story.
Not at all.
Instead, it represents something much deeper, a fundamental existential structure, a blueprint that the cosmos is built on, both geometrically and temporally. So the big question is, why 6?
Right. Why that specific number? From a purely mathematical perspective, what makes it so vital to this model?
Exactly.
Its importance really comes from two places: mathematical self-sufficiency and geometric necessity. Mathematically, 6 has this very specific and actually quite rare distinction. It's the first perfect number.
A perfect number. Okay, break that down for us.
A perfect number is a positive integer that is equal to the sum of its own proper positive divisors. So the divisors other than itself.
Okay, so for 6, the numbers that divide into it are 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly. And if you add them up, 1 plus 2 plus 3, you get 6.
That is a fascinating property. It suggests this kind of inherent balance, doesn't it? A structural completeness.
A self-referential nature, right at the very beginning. It doesn't need anything external to define its own sum.
Precisely. This property of mathematical perfection hints at a closed, foundational, structurally complete system.
It suggests that the very first major structural element of existence, sort of the boundary condition, had to have this quality of numerical stability.
But the model really connects the dots when we move this abstract math idea into, well, concrete physical geometry.
And that's where the cube analogy comes in.
Okay, let's talk about the cube. Why is a cube, which is, fundamentally a three-dimensional object, the perfect representation for a six-fold cosmic structure?
Because the cube is the simplest, most stable, and most foundational geometric representation of the three-dimensional space we all inhabit. The structural necessity here is that any standard cube has exactly 6 faces.
Right.
And those 6 faces, they naturally and perfectly align with how we perceive spatial extension.
We define our reality by 6 directions: front and back, right and left, up and down.
Yes. And the framework argues this isn't just how humans perceive space, this is how space is fundamentally structured. The cube becomes a conceptual map of existence.
So the 6 faces of the cube are interpreted as a map of the 6 dimensions, or the 6 fundamental extensions of existence.
Exactly. It links the geometry directly to the cosmology. 6, therefore, represents the maximal boundary conditions, or structured reality. It provides the very container for everything that comes after.
Let me just push back on that for a second. The cube analogy. If the cosmos is fundamentally 6-dimensional, why are we using the constraint of a 3D shape like a cube to define it? Isn't that sort of imposing a human limit onto a much more abstract cosmic idea?
That is a brilliant question, and a critical one. The model addresses it by focusing not on the shape itself, but on the concept of extension.
Ah, okay.
So while the cube is a useful 3D visual aid for us, the crucial element it provides is the definition of 6 mutually exclusive extensions. The source is proposing that the 3 spatial dimensions we experience, x, y, and z, are supplemented by 3 other forms of extension.
And these could be related to time or even higher order spatial dimensions?
Perhaps. And the cube, with its perfect 6-sided structure, provides the logical boundary condition for all 6 of these fundamental extensions. It's the logical step up from the simplest stable 2D form, the square with its 4 sides, to the first stable form in 3D, which is the cube with 6.
I see. So the cube represents the minimal stable architecture for 6 extensions. It's the container.
Precisely.
Okay. So if 6 defines the boundary conditions of space, we now have to tackle the challenge of time. Specifically, the Quranic use of day, or yom in that phrase, 6 days of creation.
And this is where Dr. Waleed's interpretation becomes explicitly ultra-modern and, well, scientific. Traditionally, many readings interpret 6 days as 6 24-hour periods, which obviously creates a huge, irreconcilable conflict with modern geological and cosmological timescales.
Right. It just doesn't work.
So the framework completely rejects this terrestrial view by pointing to verses in the Quran itself that redefine the term yom.
He cites the verses that define a day as being equivalent to 2 vastly different cosmic scales.
Exactly. You have verses that define a day, a yom, as being equivalent to 1,000 years in one place, and then even more profoundly as 50,000 years in another.
And crucially, both of those verses use the modifier Indo-Arabic.
With your Lord.
That modifier, that's the intellectual escape clause, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It instantly removes the constraint of any terrestrial, human, or solar measurement of time.
It contextualizes the measure of time as being fundamentally relational, immense, and tied to the absolute frame of reference of the Creator.
Rather than the Earth's rotation. And the implication of that is staggering.
Time isn't an absolute constant.
Not at all. It's variable, it's scalable, depending on the frame of reference or even the phase of creation itself.
So the powerful conclusion on Yom is that the day gets redefined. It's a cosmic phase or
a temporal extension or a level of creation. It's a unit of cosmic chronology, not human time.
And if that's the case, then the 6 days are not 6 solar periods. They are 6 layers of cosmic development.
Or, as the analysis suggests, 6 temporal dimensions.
Which corresponds perfectly to the 6 geometric extensions of the cube we were just talking about.
This is the core synthesis of the entire model. And what gives this abstract interpretation its rigor is the fact that current theoretical physics actually offers 3 distinct points of entry for accepting the necessity of 6 dimensions beyond our conventional 4.
Okay, let's detail those scientific gateways, starting with, I guess, the biggest name in high-level theory, string theory.
Right. String theory, particularly its superstring and M-theory versions, fundamentally requires the universe to have 10, sometimes 11, total dimensions. This is just for the underlying math that describes a unified physics to be consistent.
And we, as observers, we only perceive 4 of those are 3 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension.
Correct.
So where do the other 6 go?
The theory posits that the remaining 6 dimensions are compactified. They're curled up, existing at an unbelievably small scale, maybe the Planck scale.
So they're hidden from our macroscopic observation, but they're essential for the physics to work, to unify gravity with quantum mechanics.
That's the critical part for our deep dive. The mathematical necessity for 6 extra foundational dimensions is a central non-negotiable prerequisite for a major modern theory of everything.
So physics itself literally needs 6 extra dimensions just to balance the books, which aligns perfectly with the 6 extensions proposed by Dr. Waleed's reading.
It's a stunning correlation.
Okay, what's the second scientific gateway that reinforces this idea of 6 dimensions?
That would be the existence and mathematical stability of what are called 6D cosmology models. And these aren't just, thought experiments. They are complete physical models designed to describe the universe using 6 dimensions explicitly. And they're often explored to solve some of the deepest puzzles in current cosmology.
So how would a 6D model restructure our perception of time and space?
Well, they explore configurations outside our standard 3+1 spacetime. For example, some models propose having 5 spatial dimensions and just 1 time dimension. But others, which align even more closely with this Quranic idea of layered time being scalable, they explore models with 2 time dimensions and 4 spatial dimensions.
2 time dimensions?
Yes. If time itself is dual or layered, as the varying scales of Yam seem to suggest, then a multidimensional time model provides a profound scientific parallel.
So that supports the idea that the 6 days are 6 levels of creation, where the rules of time, the temporal extension, actually vary between those levels. That concept of layered time is genuinely thought-provoking, especially when you link it back to the text that says time measures differently with God. Okay, and the third gateway.
The third is simply cosmic geometry in pure mathematics. The study of 6-dimensional spaces, or 6D, is often used in math as the simplest, most consistent generalization of our familiar 3D space when you're doing higher dimensional analysis.
So 3 is the minimum stable spatial environment, and 6 is the next logical, complete, stable step up.
In many contexts, yes. So this numerical preference for 6, whether it's in string theory's necessity or in these alternative cosmology models, or just in pure geometry, it powerfully reinforces the model's premise. The 6 days are 6 fundamental extensions of existence.
So we've established the architecture. The number 6 is the structural blueprint. Now we have to trace the creation sequence itself. We need to move from that singular origin to the vast, expanding universe we see today.
Where does existence begin in this cosmology?
That's the question.
It begins with a fundamental transition from absolute unity to the required structure of duality. This is expressed through 2 concepts, Shaf and Witter. This dichotomy defines the very earliest state of reality.
Let's start at the absolute beginning then, Shaf.
Shaf is defined as the one origin, the unique source. Dr. Waleed links this intrinsically to the divine attributes, Al-Ahad, Al-Wahid, Al-Qahar, the one, the unique, the subduer.
So this concept defines the pre-creation state as a singular, non-dual starting point.
The absolute singularity from which existence will spring. And the source emphasizes that in this foundational concept, nothing intercedes La Shafia, which underscores its absolute unity and uniqueness.
So Shaf is the state of total potentiality, a point of 0 dimension before anything has differentiated.
Right. And once that origin exists, it has to differentiate into the structural reality we experience. And that is defined by Witter.
Witter.
Exactly. Witter is the immediate universal cosmic law that governs the entire creation process. It mandates the system of pairs, the binary dualistic nature of literally everything.
And this is rooted in the Quranic verse, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ.
We created pairs of everything. So if Shaf is that point of initial unity, Witter is the mechanism of universal differentiation. This duality is the foundational structure upon which all complexity is built.
And this transition from a singularity to this ubiquitous duality is absolutely central to modern physics. I mean, especially quantum field theory.
It provides one of the strongest scientific parallels in the entire model.
Cool.
The universe is defined by these pervasive dualities.
You can't have matter without antimatter.
Even if it's hidden or scarce. Electrical charge requires positive and negative pairing. Forces come in balanced pairs action and reaction.
And in quantum mechanics, energy fluctuations are constantly producing these virtual antiparticle pairs that just pop into and out of existence.
Precisely. Duality, in physics, is necessary for defining complexity and interaction.
So Witter is the universal law that generates that structural complexity from the initial singularity of Shaf.
It ensures every force has a counterforce, every particle an antiparticle. It establishes the structural tension that physical reality needs to operate.
Because if creation had just remained Shaf singular and non-dual, no structure, no complexity, no interaction would even be possible.
Nothing could exist.
Okay, so we have the singular origin, which differentiates into duality. But before that duality resolves into, atoms and stars, it exists as a medium. And this brings us to that mysterious concept of the primordial water, al-ma al-wali.
Right, the verses describe the throne, Al-Arch, as being upon the water. Dr. Waleed's ultramodern reading is uncompromising here. The SMA is not AGO.
No, rejecting the literal HEO reading is essential, isn't it? Because water, as we know it, is a complex molecule.
Yeah, it requires a universe that's already structured with hydrogen and oxygen, which were formed long, long after the very first moments of creation.
So if it's not water, what is the SMA?
He defines it as a primordial fluid, an energy matter liquid. It's the structural readiness or the potentiality for creation.
A single, unified medium.
Yes. The cosmic seed that held the possibility of all matter and energy before the four fundamental forces had differentiated, before space and time had fully expanded.
That description aligns perfectly with the concepts we use to describe the earliest moments of the universe, before the fundamental structure stabilized.
It really does. You can draw parallels to the incredibly dense, superheated cosmic plasma that filled the nascent universe milliseconds after it began.
Or even earlier, the unified medium of the Grand Unified Theory, the GUT era, where electromagnetism and the strong and weak nuclear forces were all merged into a single force.
It's the soup of particles, the initial potential that existed before the universe cooled enough for structure to begin to stabilize.
It's the necessary unified field from which the 6 dimensions would eventually extend.
Exactly. So the primordial water is this state of maximum energy and minimum entropy, just waiting to burst forth.
Which leads us directly to the moment of cosmic inception, al-Fajr, the dawn.
Dr. Waleed interprets the Quranic oath, wal-Fajr by the dawn, as the precise, instantaneous moment of cosmic inception. The linguistic root of Fajr means explosion, bursting forth, or dawn. It's a sudden splitting open that introduces light and differentiation.
And in the context of this cosmological model, what does that translate to?
It is the closest Quranic description we have of the Big Bang.
The explosion of that unified medium.
The explosion of the cosmic seed, the primordial water, that immediately initiates the rapid, directional expansion of space and time. Al-Fajr is the moment the temporal mechanism starts ticking, launching the universe from the singularity of Shaf into the structural stages defined by Witter and eventually the 6 dimensions.
The pace of cosmic history is just breathtaking. We've had the origin, Shaf, and the explosion, Al-Fajr, the Big Bang. Now, the model immediately focuses on what happens next. The scripture transitions seamlessly into the oath right after Al-Fajr, wa Layl Ash.
In 10 nights.
The 10 nights, Layl and Asher.
Right. And we need to spend a moment on the redefinition of night here, Layl, which is key to Dr. Waleed's reading. Layl doesn't signify astronomical darkness. In this context, it signifies an absence of defined, stable structure.
A preformation stage before stability sets in. A period of chaos, heat, rapid change.
Exactly.
So why are these 10 initial phases considered night in the cosmic context?
Because they lack the stable, transparent, structured reality that we experience today. Immediately after the Big Bang, the universe was opaque, extremely hot, and governed by unified or just recently decoupled forces.
So these 10 nights are 10 initial stages or formative phases right after the Fajr.
They're the moments when the universe is too unstable, too dense, and too hot to have defined structures like atoms or stars or even transparency.
So these 10 stages must map directly onto those foundational, unstable, rapid-fire milestones in early cosmic evolution. Let's try to map out what those 10 stages might look like in the context of modern cosmology.
Let's do it. The framework allows us to link these 10 stages to the rapid definition of cosmic law and structure. So first, you'd have the Planck era, the very first fraction of a second where all 4 forces, including gravity, were unified.
The moment before our current physics can even be applied.
Right. Then second, the Grand Unified Theory era, the GUT era. Gravity separates, but the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces are still one.
Third would be inflation. That exponential, hyper-rapid expansion that smoothed out the universe.
Fourth, the electroweak era. The strong force splits off, leaving electromagnetism and the weak force still unified.
Okay, so after that, number 5 is the quark-gluon plasma. The universe is still this hot soup of elementary particles.
Then sixth, quark confinement. The quarks cool enough to bind together, forming the first protons and neutrons.
7th, the lepton era, dominated by electrons and neutrinos.
8th, Big Bang nucleosynthesis, or BBN. This is the initial formation of light atomic nuclei, hydrogen, helium, lithium, all in the first few minutes.
Wow. 9th would be the decoupling of neutrinos, when they stop interacting so strongly with matter.
And finally, 10th, and this is the big one, the recombination era. About 380,000 years after the Big Bang, when electrons finally bind to nuclei, forming the first stable, neutral atoms.
And that allows light to travel freely for the first time.
Ending the night, creating a transparent, structured universe, and releasing the cosmic microwave background, the CMB.
That is a period of intense, chaotic structural definition. These are the 10 necessary rapid steps where the universe lays down its basic physical rules before it can achieve any kind of stability.
Precisely. They're the transitional phases. And once they're done, the universe needs a permanent governing system to maintain the integrity of that new structure.
And this introduces one of the most compelling parts of the model, the control system, the 8 laws, the thumania, and the throne, al-arsh.
The concept of the throne, al-arsh, is traditionally, highly symbolic.
So how does Dr. Waleed's framework redefine it in a scientific context?
He provides a stunning high-level redefinition. He interprets the throne not as a physical celestial seat,
Right.
but as the system of cosmic control, the master framework, or the operating system, that defines, stabilizes, and governs the functioning of the entire universe.
It's the mechanism that ensures the physical laws that were just established during the 10 nights remain invariant.
Exactly. And that system of control, that cosmic operating system, is sustained and maintained by the 8 carriers, the thumania.
Yes. The 8 entities that carry the throne are interpreted as 8 fundamental cosmic laws or constants that perpetually maintain the stability of the universe.
These are the fixed, invariant physical parameters that make our structured universe possible and coherent. If you view the universe as a machine, the arsh is the design, and the thumania are the calibration settings.
And this detail is where the intellectual rigor really shines, because modern cosmology is dominated by this thing called the fine-tuning problem, which focuses on exactly these invariant constants.
That's right. The model essentially posits that the text identifies the number of these essential constants.
And the fine-tuning problem argues that for a universe like ours, one capable of supporting life and complex structure, several fundamental physical constants have to be tuned to absurdly precise values.
Absurdly precise. If any of these 8 constants were even slightly different, by a tiny fraction, the universe would have either collapsed immediately, never formed atoms, or expanded so fast that nothing ever clumped together.
Let's elaborate on some of those 8 crucial candidates, just to show why their precision is so non-negotiable.
We can definitely propose 8 candidates that demonstrate this critical regulation. First, the gravitational constant. If gravity were even a little bit stronger, stars would burn out way too quickly for life to evolve. A little weaker, and no galaxies or stable planets would ever form.
Second, the strength of the strong nuclear force. This is the force that binds protons and neutrons. If it were marginally weaker, hydrogen would be the only element.
And if it were stronger, all the hydrogen would have fused, and complex molecules could never have formed. The precise resonance that allows carbon and oxygen to form in stars depends on this constant.
Number 3, the strength of the electromagnetic force. It governs chemical bonds in light. Too strong, atoms repel too aggressively to bond. Too weak, stars can't ignite properly.
Fourth, the ratio of electron mass to proton mass. Absolutely crucial for allowing atoms to form and chemical reactions to happen.
Fifth, the cosmological constant, or dark energy density. This governs the current expansion rate of the universe.
And this constant is maybe the most famous example of fine-tuning. It has to be precise to 1 part in 10 to the power of 120. It's an insane number. Any different, and you get immediate collapse or runaway expansion.
Sixth, the laws of thermodynamics. Specifically, the initial entropy of the universe. If the universe had started in a state of higher entropy, no structure could ever have evolved.
Seventh, the laws of quantum mechanics. These govern probability and behavior at the smallest scales, providing the fundamental rules for atomic stability.
And eighth, the weak nuclear force, which governs radioactive decay. Its specific strength ensures the right balance between protons and neutrons, which allows for the creation of heavier elements during supernova explosions.
Right.
This analysis really provides the technical depth we need for this deep dive. It takes the highly symbolic language of a throne carried by 8 and translates it directly into the 8 invariant constants and laws that govern every interaction.
It's an intellectual argument that the divine text serves as a manual for the universal operating system.
Okay, we've covered the blueprint, the 6 and the cube, the origin shaft, Witter, the water, Fudger, and the governance, the 8 and the throne. It's time to return to that core concept of structure, the 6-fold nature of creation.
The 6 stages of space-time expansion.
Exactly.
This is the critical synthesis point. This is where the geometric architecture meets the Genesis timeline. The 6 days, the Satatu Ayam, They aren't historical moments. They are 6 temporal cosmic phases, or extensional dimensions that define the structured construction and expansion of the cosmos.
These are the 6 levels across which existence was layered.
Precisely. And the framework clarifies that creation wasn't a singular event, but a process, a sequence of structured operations over those 6 phases.
The model uses 3 continuous operations to describe this process: khalaq, tatir, and taswiya. Let's break down how these 3 operations define cosmic development.
So the creation process is defined as structured work over time, not instantaneous magic. First, you have khalaq, creation.
This is the initial foundational act.
Yes, it's bringing something into existence, or in a cosmological sense, initiating the potentiality, like generating the primordial water or the initial duality of Witter. It's the potential input.
Okay, next is tatir, estimation or modeling. This seems to be the crucial operational phase that links directly to the fine-tuning problem we just discussed.
It is absolutely crucial. Tatir means to precisely measure, to estimate, to code the properties. If khalaq is the initiation, tatir is the design, the calculation, the calibration.
So this operation represents the moment when the fundamental constants, the thumania, are set to their precise invariant values.
It's the coding of the universal software, the estimation of the exact mass, charge, coupling strength, and expansion density required. This is the structural modeling of the 6 dimensions.
So takir is the operational implementation of the control system, of the throne. And finally, we have taswiya, structuring or settling.
Taswiya is the final stabilization. It means bringing the structures to completion, settling them, stabilizing them into their final form. This phase covers the formation and cooling of galaxies, the arrangement of stars and planets, and the emergence of stable, persistent, non-chaotic structures that define the cosmos today.
It's the result of the prior 2 operations working over the 6-dimensional phases.
Correct. The cosmos, therefore, was not merely made. It was initiated, precisely coded, tatir, and finally settled, taswiya. And all of this occurred over 6 distinct dimensional stages.
Which perfectly integrates the cube's 6 extensions with the sequential process of creation.
The synthesis confirms the hypothesis brilliantly. Creation occurred through 6 temporal cosmic levels, and each level represents a dimension or extension of existence. It perfectly links the geometric structure, the cube with its 6 directions, to the sequential process of creation, the 6 stages or dimensions.
Creating a holistically integrated structural model.
That's right.
Let's do one final consistency check. Why is this specific reading Yam as dimension, 6 as structure, so necessary for maintaining coherence with the text itself?
The consistency comes from rejecting arbitrary interpretation. By explicitly tying the definition of the day to Indo-Arabic with your Lord, and showing that the scale of that time unit varies wildly, 1,000 years versus 50,000 years, the model proves that the time measurement is relative, vast, and non-terrestrial.
So once you remove the 24-hour constraint.
Once that's gone, the interpretation of Yam as a structural dimension, a cosmic phase, or a level of extension becomes the only logically coherent interpretation that can reconcile the text's own data with the requirements of a massive cosmic timescale.
It forces you, the listener, to abandon human temporal constraints and embrace a multi-stage cosmic expansion. So, if the entire cosmos is structured by 6 dimensions, meticulously governed by 8 fixed laws, and began with a calculated explosion, we have to ask, who is the ultimate master of this entire temporal and spatial mechanism?
Which leads us to the final, profound structural concept of Malik Yam ad-Din.
Traditionally, this concept is often translated narrowly as master of the day of judgment.
But in the context of the Almighty Covenant framework, which defines Yam cosmologically, this translates into something far, far grander.
Mastery over the entire temporal system itself.
Exactly. If the Yam is a cosmic phase, a dimension, or an extension, then mastery over Yam ad-Din is mastery over the complete cosmic timeline, from the moment of inception al-Fajr to its final dimensional state ad-Din.
It reclaims the concept of divine ownership of time itself.
Absolutely. We saw earlier that the text posits that time isn't an eternal absolute. It's a created variable system measured by scales of 1,000 years or 50,000 years, depending on the phase or the vantage point.
This establishes that time itself is a created structure and it's subject to the control system.
Yes. And if time is a structure, then the scope of mastery extends far beyond just the final accounting.
It encompasses the entirety of the cosmic clockwork mechanism.
That's the critical takeaway. God is the master of this entire temporal mechanism, the 6-dimensional layers of time, from its 0 point at al-Fajr to its final stage.
It also forces us to think about the implications of a multi-scale relational time system on our own perception.
It does. If the past, present, and future are all fundamentally accessible and measurable by varying cosmic scales, it suggests that our human linear preoccupation with time is just a function of our four-dimensional limitation. The master control system operates outside of those limits.
That structural definition of time adds immense weight to the final synthesis of the model. Let's bring all the structural elements we've covered today back together in Dr. Waleed's comprehensive framework.
The synthesis is powerful and complete. The cosmos originates from the singularity of Shaf, which immediately differentiates into the universal structural law of duality, wit.
This potentiality exists within the primordial water until the moment of inception, the cosmic explosion of Al-Fajr.
The initial stages of cosmic history are the 10 nights, the Layl Ash. Order is imposed and maintained by the throne, Al-Arsh, the cosmic operating system, which is regulated by 8 fundamental, fine-tuned laws, the Thumanya.
And finally, the entire system is structured and extends across 6 temporal cosmic phases. The 6 dimensions of existence, the entirety of which is governed by the master of the temporal mechanism, Malik Yam Adin.
This isn't just a reading. It's a proposal for a complete integrated system of cosmological structure, built on mathematical constants and physical requirements.
What an intellectually demanding, but also really rewarding deep dive into a framework that successfully bridges ancient text with modern science. We have systematically dissected Dr. Khaled Waleed's integrated model from the Almighty Covenant research, moving from geometry to Genesis to governance.
We track the journey from the singularity of Shaf, establishing the dualistic structure of Witter, witnessing the Big Bang, Al-Fajr, emerge from the primordial water. We detailed the 10 unstable stages of early cosmic history and defined that necessary control system, the throne, maintained by the 8 invariant cosmic laws, the Thumanya.
And the entire architecture is founded on the number 6. Manifested geometrically in the cube and temporally in the 6 days, the Sitatu Ayam, interpreted as 6 dimensions of cosmic extension, all created, modeled, and settled through Kalak, Tadir, and Tazwiya.
Right. This framework successfully provides a non-traditional, logically consistent, and science-aligned reading. It focuses entirely on structural definition rather than, historical narrative.
It provides a really stunning example of how foundational texts, when viewed through a modern scientific lens, an ultra-modern reading, can offer remarkable conceptual correlations to our deepest theories.
Things like string theory's requirement for 6 compactified dimensions and the cosmological necessity of those fine-tuned constants.
So, if we take this framework seriously, that the cosmos was deliberately built across 6-dimensional stages, regulated by 8 fixed laws, and that time itself is a created, scalable structure, what does this imply for us, for you, the listener, standing within our measured 3 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension?
Well, this raises a profound question about the limits of our perception. If the master blueprint relies on 6 stages or dimensions, what does our inability to perceive the other 2 spatial and 2 temporal dimensions truly cost us? If time is fundamentally layered and multi-scale, meaning moments we call past or future exist concurrently at different cosmic scales, how fundamentally does our limited human terrestrial perception constrain our understanding of reality?
We exist within a highly structured dimensional box defined by laws, but the framework implies that the reality outside of that box is far more complex than we can currently grasp.
We are watching a 6D movie on a 4D screen.
Yeah.
And that's a perspective worth mulling over long after this deep dive ends.
إني استطعت